So we're now going to shift to talking about knowledge and professional skills among the sales teams out there. And let's just be honest, it's overwhelming, right? Training in this business is hard. But I would even take it one step further. I would say training in our industry is broken. The way that we do training in our business, for the most part, is just the way that we've always done it. And that's how we know how to do it, so that's what we've always done, right? And we get a lot of support from the factory, and we try and do some in our store. But is the way that we're training our salespeople today, is it effective for them to work with these educated, empowered customers out there? Are we giving them the knowledge, the skills, the tools that they need to really effectively engage and convert these customers? I think a lot of times the answer is no. And let me show you what I mean. So we know salespeople are responsible for mountains of information, right? Products, technologies, features, specs, competitors. The customers don't know that. The customer's at home researching the one model for 2 weeks in their jammies, and they come in and they expect your salespeople to be on the same level with the information with them. Okay? They don't realize how much the salespeople are responsible for, and it's overwhelming and it's constantly changing. On top of that, you have your process and all the new digital retail stuff everyone's trying to learn, so no wonder people just give up. It's overwhelming, we get it. Right? Training in our business is also traditionally really sporadic, once in a while kind of training. You get a ride and drive or a new vehicle launch, you get some support from the factory, district trainers come in once in a while, but traditionally it's like here or there and there's no kind of consistency to it. Now we're combining that with turnover. So how do you possibly keep those new guys, how do you get the new guys up to speed fast? How do you keep your veterans on their toes? Because everything's constantly changing. The people are changing. How do you train the guy that you just hired last week, but we just did a training last week? Right? Now you just hired a new guy. How does he get up to speed? How are you ensuring that all of your salespeople are getting a consistent level of training so when the customers come in, they're getting a consistent experience at your store? This stuff is hard, right? And then think about who's training. Traditionally, it's managers, and these people are already overtasked. Are you a training manager? Are you feeling what I'm saying, right? Okay, so managers are already overtasked, and we're asking them to do training. They're probably great managers. They're probably great at desking and closing and managing, but are they great at training? What is their background? Where are they developing the content? How do they possibly have the time to work with their salespeople and do the homework to get the trainings done? It's a really hard situation out there. And we've already established salespeople are responsible for all this massive amounts of information. So what tools and resources are we giving them so that they can engage and work with their customers? Okay, do you agree with me? Training in our industry is broken. It's really, really a hard situation. So what we're looking at when we compile all of this together on the screen here and we're looking at it, what we're looking at is a recipe for a very poor customer experience. But it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. And so that's what we're going to give you right now, is some tips to help you seriously up your game when it comes to training, when it comes to you helping your teams be more knowledgeable and more professional and have a higher level of skills. So let's go. I'm going to introduce you to a new topic today, a whole new phrase. It's called micro-learning. Micro-learning is super hot in training. It's much better and more effective, little bits at a time. So think about how we traditionally do training in the automotive industry is we send people off-site for a half a day or a whole day. We're upstairs in a windowless training room for 3 hours at a time, immersing people in information that, guess what? They forget. And then they're on to the next, but they've forgotten it. I'm going to introduce you to another concept. It's called the forgetting curve. So the forgetting curve is just, it's not automotive training specific, it's just the way the human brain works. Somebody learns something right now, by tomorrow they've forgotten 50% of it. In 30 days from now, they've forgotten 90% of it. So what that means is consistency is key. It's not about immersing them and throwing everything you possibly can at them all in one shot. 10 or 15 minutes at a time on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis is way more effective. And that's an easy change you can make back in your stores. The other thing I'll tell you is make training mandatory. Just make it mandatory. Drew would agree, Hanny would agree. Every store that we go into that makes training mandatory, not only are their people better educated, more knowledgeable, they're happier about being there. They have good attitudes about coming in for training because they know it's making them better at their job and helping them make more money. Just make it mandatory. Set the tone in your store that training is important to you. So there's a lot of stores sometimes ask us about doing spiffs or kind of pay to play for training things. That's great if you want to do it, but I'll tell you what's even more powerful. Make a culture that takes some pride in what you do. Be great, okay? Make them proud, and you as managers, you have to set that tone and let them know your expectations, okay? Middle managers, ASMs, are so important for this process, whatever you call them in your store, right? That kind of middle manager, the team leaders, because they can work with their guys 10 or 15 minutes at a time. So a great thing that you could do when you go back to your store, okay, 10 or 15 minutes at the beginning of each shift, we do a little bit of training. If you can do that, you're gonna see huge changes. And whatever you do, make them accountable, because training only works if they do it, right? So you gotta hold them accountable. Another thing that's really important to keep in mind as you're doing your own training is that people learn by doing. It's much more impactful than just listening to talking. So any of the trainings that you do, use a lot of discussion, talk, ask a lot of questions, put them on the spot. Who cares if they don't know the answer? Guess what? By having this conversation, they're gonna learn it. That's a training trick, by the way. That's what we all do. Quizzes are great, little 5 or 10 question quizzes, because it makes them think. It's not telling, it's learning. And you're in a dealership, you've got the best props in the world, so use the cars. Okay, you wanna do a 10 or 15 minute training at the beginning of each shift? Guess what? ASM gets in the car with his team, her team, and pairs a phone. That's your training today. See how easy it can be? Little bits at a time, consistently reinforced, is gonna seriously make a difference in your team. Drew talked a lot about the importance of video in selling. Equally, if not even more important with training, we're visual learners, and of course, in a YouTube world, there's tons of resources out there for that. Please, 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 train on knowledge, skills, and tools. The days of sales training is what we focus on, and product knowledge will figure itself out. Those are gone because customers have different expectations. So your salespeople, if they don't have the knowledge, skills, and tools to be able to work with these customers, we're disposable. And people do go on vending machines and buy a car because they don't need us. If we have knowledge, skills, and tools, and we're building value and creating experiences for customers, now they need us. Now they're creating an emotional connection like Drew talked about. Okay? Helping a customer versus selling a customer. That's a Hanny line, I'm stealing it right now. Okay? If you can help a customer, give them something that they haven't already seen online, you're creating that powerful emotional engagement there. And if you are ready in your store to make the investment and bring on the experts, let me give you a few tips for that as well. Third-party training solutions are super effective. They're super effective. Professional trainers are masters at their craft. They can really elevate the kind of training that you're having in your store, sure. But that third-party effect that we all know is so effective in working in a sales process, it's the same thing with training. So you can tell your guys as a manager, you can tell your guys something 10 times. Till you're blue in the face, you can say it. It's like talking to your kids, right? But then someone else comes in and has an idea and says it, they're like, oh, wow, that's genius. Third party makes a big impact there. Whether it's in person or online, the outside influence that a trainer can bring is a great investment and really does have a strong ROI, and I'll talk about that more in a minute. I'm gonna give you one more tip as we're talking about this. It's actually kind of a secret. Webinars don't work. Okay, it's kind of an open, did I feel some pain out there? Did I feel some pain out there? Let me qualify it, I'll explain to you what I mean. So, webinars in the automotive sales training product knowledge field are not the most effective ways of training. And I know we've all had to be immersed in that over the past year. But It's a one-way flow of information. There's not a back and forth, there's not engagement in learning. Oftentimes these are manufacturer and they are really about certification, but are they really helping the guys sell cars, right? So think about that, and I'll tell you, I mean, this is just honest, we've all experienced it in the last year. We have literally stood in the front of the room in a training class with guys logged into a webinar on mute on the table while they're taking our class. It happens. You know, you walk around, you hear someone's phone in their pocket and it's talking, and you're like, what are they doing? Because they're logged into a webinar. So webinars are great for highly motivated individuals who are really interested in or have to learn the information. In sales training in a dealership, it's not the most effective way. Okay? But whatever training that you do in your store, please make sure there's an accountability system. It's absolutely imperative. It's only important to them if it's important to you, so make sure it's important to them. Okay, let me leave you with a couple of quick specs here. So 50% of new hires are not trained enough. This is according to Cox Automotive. It's a great stat. I think we could all agree that there's probably even maybe higher numbers out there than that. So in the industry right now, we're working on trying to, instead of just finding good people, we're developing good people. The amount that we spend to train people is a very small amount compared to the amount that we spend to hire new people. So imagine if we just flipped those. Imagine if we just flipped those, how much more effective that could be. There's lots of people in your dealership, and all these new people we're hiring, whether they're millennials or from hospitality industries, a lot of people are hiring from there now. People want to learn. People want to be good at their job and feel good about what they do, and they appreciate your investment in them. And just to drive the point home here, turnover, okay? Dealerships that invest in a training solution have a 65% less turnover. Wow. And coincidentally, they're about 3 times more profitable. So invest in your people. That makes all the difference. People ask us, what are the costs of training? We like to say, what are the costs of not training?